Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Brothers and sisters, we bring you an impromptu video this week on the subject of Muhammad Abdul Wahab, heretic or hero. There have been numerous discussions in recent times, and very recently on the internet, with various prominent Islamic YouTubers, those affiliated with the Salafi, or more accurately, the doctrine of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahab, in accordance with the Saudi-aligned scholarship and other personalities, and other prominent personalities rebutting them. Without delving into individuals personally, there are certain common themes that we've identified that we think require further clarification and rebuttal from a more fundamental point of view. To summarize the arguments of the Saudi camp, or as is often known, the Madkhali camp, Rabi Madkhali being the prominent Saudi-assigned government scholar, with whom our resident scholar, Professor Muhammad al-Masri, is quite familiar, the recurring themes are as follows. The insistence on what is referred to as the pure Aqidah of the Salaf, and an alleged consensus on the following. What constitutes Salaf? What is the Aqidah? And an assumption that ruling and accountability, any forms that rebuttal the current incumbent rulers, by necessity falls into a category of khuruj. And they bring certain evidences, or at least part of a picture of certain evidences, to build a narrative that automatically anyone who has a counterpoint of view or vocalizes a counterpoint of view without even any kind of physical action is by necessity a khawarij. And by building an identity of consensus around this, they often tenuously dismiss people as khawarij, and by extension their words are no longer valid. And other kinds of wraparounds they put on that is also the concept of mubtadi. Ironically, the modern Saudi state owes its actual origins to a form of khuruj, and the original religious justification provided to the Saudi state was the Wahhabi doctrine. And hence the reason for the title of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahab, hero or heretic, is really around the fact that if you look, hopefully by the end of this video, you'll find that that description of being a khawarij is actually more appropriate from Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahab. We've prepared this piece to further elicit discussions and to clarify the misconceptions. There are many dais that we appreciate and we certainly follow. Muhammad Hijab, Riyadh Muslim, Ali Dawa, and Bro Haji, among others, have provided some very good rebuttals. And their counterparts, Sajid Lippman, Shamsi, Ustad Abdurrahman, and Salafi publications, we feel are not quite addressing the issue adequately and have provided a narrative which we don't agree with, which we certainly think this is the junction for us to rebuttal. We hope this is just the beginning salvo, and we are more than open to open discussion and facilitating any kind of discussions directly or on other people's media channels. Before I hand over to Sheikh, I'll give a brief introduction as to who Sheikh Professor Muhammad al-Masri is and his background. Professor Muhammad al-Masri was previously a professor of physics, and he comes from a lineage of scholars. His father was a contemporary of Bin Baz and his scribe, and his grandfather was the Imam of the Haram. In the 80s and 90s, he formed a group to account the rulership of Al Saud, called the Committee of Defense, the Committees of Defense for the Legitimate Rights, CDLR. He was unfortunately exiled from Saudi, chased out of Saudi rather, and sought asylum in the UK, and has been a very prominent activist in the UK. He has produced quite a number of books, books that are being published in English as well as currently in Arabic, on some very fundamental issues, and has really clarified a lot of fundamental issues which were taken as dismissed by the Saudi government scholarship, because it's not in their interest to entertain these kinds of issues. And the material that's been produced, we can say with confidence, is very strong and reaches the level of mutawatir in terms of the evidences that are referenced. However, we will publish those links, but without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Professor Muhammad al-Masri. And Professor, you're familiar with the current dialogue that's been happening between these various camps.
Yeah.
what is it? Just to start things off, what is your understanding of what constitutes a Salaf? And this insistence on Aqidah, isn't that a good thing? Is there a consensus on what constitutes Aqidah? And is this something that is something which we should aspire to?
This is what they call Salaf, and what the definition of Salaf is relatively late. It was used casually. Like, for example, we have one hadith narrating scholar of high level of authenticity and exactness in matter of narratives, and also personal piety. He was doing ribat, guarding at the border of the Romans, and so on. But he was quite negative to some scholars because he's Kufi. He's from Thaqafi origin. He was negative to other scholars and did not want to sit with them and so on, because he said they attack the Salaf. Actually, they were attacking Muawiyah. That's what he means, Salaf. So the word like that is come Salaf, like this, the previous generation, the past. That's similar in Christianity. We talk about the disciples or the apostles. That's something like that. But it was not made precise, and nobody declared himself Salafi, not even Ahmad bin Hanbal, etc., until we came almost to the 4th century, when the first one called himself Salafi is Abu Tahir al-Salafi, one of great hadith narrator. So it became like a title. So it's an obscure term. Salaf meaning what have been past, predecessors. What's the definition? There's no clear definition. If you ask them, they say the 3 good generations, according to a hadith, that the best of the human species of my race are the 3 my generation, and then the one that follows, and the 3rd to follow. And some narrations say he mentioned 4, some say 3. So we can agree on 3 definitely. That's the first one. Then, when things are scrutinized a little bit, it turns out that the 3rd generation is having so much divergences and points of view, even worse than what we have now. So they escaped to Tabi'een, 2nd generation, meaning companions, the one who met or saw the Prophet, etc., with even obscure of definition. We'll come to that. And then the one who follow them called Tabi'een, which are themselves ranked in various great Tabi'een, or Mukhadrameen, the one who reached Jahiliyyah, but they missed the Prophet. They did not meet him because they embraced Islam later, or they were far away, and this is called Mukhadrameen. Then we have the elder or senior Tabi'een. That's the one who are born just maybe time of Abu Bakr or the end time of the Prophet, so they cannot count as companion. And then we have the middle Tabi'een, the one roughly born around the time of the end time of Umar, and then the under middle, which are born about the time of the end of Uthman, and then there's minor Tabi'in, which are born like in the 50s Hijri and so on, like the famous one is Zuhri, Bishab Zuhri is a minor Tabi'in, because he met at least and got from Anas ibn Malik, so he's a Tabi'i, a minor, with the lowest generation age-wise. But also these have various disagreements and various conflicts and various tyrants and various things. So they escaped to the Sahaba. And then you have the problem with the definition. Who is a Sahabi? There was no clear definition. Even the Tabi'een and the Sahaba did not have a clear definition. For example, Sa'id ibn Musayyib was regarded as the best and the great of Tabi'i and the most pious, and maybe in Hadith science more exacting. I would say Sha'bi is more exacting in matter of narrative and more sharp in knowing men. Of course, Sa'id ibn Musayyib is more pious and more pure-hearted, but more straightforward. And to know the men and criticize them and analyze them, you need to be a little bit more a man of political insight and analysis of personality. So Sha'bi is superior. Sha'bi say, I took from a trustworthy source and mention the name of the source, then you can realize really trustworthy. You scrutinize him thoroughly. Although he's a human being, he may made a failure here and there, sometimes a mistake here and there. Sa'id ibn Musayyib is regarded the same category, but because he's someone who is straightforward and trusting, he may be misled or fooled by someone thinking he's trustworthy, which is not. That's depending on how to analyze men and their character. But I'm just mentioning that as a casual information. Sa'id ibn Musayyib say a Sahabi is the one who stayed with the Prophet one year or 2 years, or participated in 1 or 2 battle campaigns with him. So he regards anything less than 1 year, anything less than 1 battle campaign, as not enough to be a Sahabi. That will create a problem for many with regard as Sahabi. Many of plenty of narrators of people who are not according to the definition. Some people say no, he must have attended at least 3 battle campaign, etc. Some people say it has to be a resident of Medina, like Anas ibn Malik was asked, is there any Sahabi left, because he stayed until high age. I think maybe he outlived al-Hajjaj. Maybe he died 95 Hijri in high age. So they ask him in high age, is there any Sahabi left besides you? So no, there's none except maybe some Bedouins. So he didn't regard them as Sahabi. They saw him Bedouins, but they are not Sahabi. So for him, you have to be accompanying him in Medina for a certain time. So that's again the definition of Sahabi, because we know from the statement, if we choose any definition whatsoever, they will be under the Munafiqeen by the clear and fundamental text of the Quran. In Surah At-Tawbah, you cannot deny that unless you deny the Quran. But the Salaf do not mention that. They sweep it at the carpet, say Munafiq is not a Sahabi. But according to your definition, some of them, so Tawbah says clearly, ومن حولكم من الأعراب منافقون ومن أهل المدينة مرضوا على النفاق لا تعلمهم نحن نعلمهم سنعذبهم مرتين ثم يردون إلى عذاب عظيم. From the people around Medina, there is Munafiqun. And from the Medina people themselves, there are who are skilled, maradu, very skilled, very deep in nifaq. You don't know them, Muhammad, we know them. We'll punish them twice in dunya and they will be returned to enormous punishment, meaning they will die kafir. And the Prophet did not know them. And those in Medina are most likely interacting with. We know some of them by name. One of them, at least, is Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Salul, who is known as a Munafiq. Nobody, but he participated in the battle campaigns. He initiated the story of the Ifka, the attack against Aisha, all of this. And he is the one who said in his private circles, now that's the end. We adopted Muhammad and gave him protection and make him fat. And now, according to the old saying, make your dog fat, he will eat you. Meaning Muhammad is a dog. And he denied that saying that, but the Quran exposed him. So, we have that, so there's no escape. And there's various mutawatir ahadith. As I mentioned this point just to put the Salafi in the corner first, that even your definition of Sahaba is not clear, not well established. The Prophet says on all record, not in one hadith, not 2, 5, 6 ahadith, calling Munafiqeen as my companion. Even the hadith about those who plotted to kill him in Aqaba on the way back from Tabuk in the 9th year, few people saw the Prophet took the high mountain way and asked the army to go the valley and said nobody should take the high mountain way except the Prophet. And he took it. Why? We don't know. Maybe he wanted to be supervising what's going on, seeing what's going on. And that way is very narrow, cannot accommodate for anybody. So there was someone sent in the army calling, nobody should take that way is only for the Messenger of Allah. Some Munafiqeen thought that this had good opportunity, that we pretend we did not hear or we heard, and then we go that way, about 15 of them, and we push him over the ridge and get rid of him. And the event is witnessed by Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman and Ammar ibn Yasir. That's a well-known, famous event, well-established, narrated by Tawatur. And then the Prophet ﷺ exposed them, and I think Hudayfa or Ammar struck their camels in the face, so they went downhill and so on, and nothing has happened. And then he told Usayd ibn Hudayr, one of the leader of Aus, this happened. And Usayd says, very simple, send someone to their tribes, said, you know them? Say, yeah, I know them. And even the Hudayfa or Ammar knew their camels, so they can be identified. And sent an order to get the next truck. This is an assassination against the head of state. It's high treason. They're struck. And the Messenger said, no, I'm not going to do that. Obviously, because it's prohibited to do that. It will have the result that the people say Muhammad is killing his companion. Usayd ibn Hudayr said, but they are not companions, they're Munafiq. The Prophet insisted again, repeated, I am not going to kill my companion. Meaning, your claim that they are not companion is wrong. The word companion fits on them. So the companion is kept in the Arabic language meaning. Arabic language is someone going with you on a trip is a companion. Your wife is your companion. Sahibatan. The Quran says about the Mushrikeen claiming that Allah has a consort, is a companion. So he kept it in the linguistic meaning. So all these definitions are wavering and do not bring anything fruitful. The reason they are wavering around it is very well known. We know that from various historic reasons, especially Ahmad bin Hanbal and so on, his statement about Muawiyah. They want to get Muawiyah to have the honor on the protection of companion, but they will not succeed. That's just a prelude. So Salaf is not well defined, and even the companion is not clearly well defined. Secondly, they say the Sahaba were around the Prophet, and they saw the revelation of the Quran, etc. And they are, most of them, except a few, which do not count, 5, 6, 7, who are not eloquent Arabic speaker, so they understand the Arabic language better than us by nature. They are born in Arabic language. We have to learn it by effort as a foreign language for us now. I mean, the High Arabic, the Quranic Arabic. Even myself, the language I came up with is a dialect, not the High Arabic. So I have to learn the High Arabic as if it's a foreign language. It's easy, obviously, because the dialect is close, but still I have to learn it. But the one born in it, it is done in his blood. He has the taste of it. So based on that, their understanding must be the best of understanding. But again, a fallacy. First of all, because understanding is related to certain, not only understanding Arabic and being with the Prophet, is related to the certain mental and intellectual capabilities. Not everyone is having fiqh and depth of understanding. And we have many evidences that many of the companions were quite simple-minded and very shallow. It doesn't stain them, because their virtue is being that they are early in Islam, especially the Sabiqeen al-Awwalin, Muhajirin al-Ansar. Secondly, they are sincere and they are willing to sacrifice their life and their wealth for Islam. That's what gave them the virtue, high virtue. Not that they are better understanding. And evidence show that. I'll give you just one example, just casual example for the listener. They don't know these things. For example, in one hadith, various hadith, Ibn Abbas casually mentions issue related to Khilafah and election and so on. He says we were in Mina with Umar in his last pilgrimage before he died. And I was, imagine, Ibn Abbas, who was just coming out of age when the Prophet died, because he was just coming out of age, we know from other narrations, was teaching Abdurrahman ibn Auf. Abdurrahman, the big companion who embraced Islam very early in Mecca, and was the one who mediated for Shura in the time of Uthman. Well, no, time of Umar, we did not yet get there, but Abdurrahman ibn Auf is counted under top companions in any count, and he's Badri, everything, top. Still, he did not memorize enough Qur'ans that he needed to be educated by a small boob like Ibn Abbas. So it's not. This is a fallacy. But also the Prophet in his final sermon said, "Those who have heard me, they should report what they heard as they heard it. May Allah make the face beautiful with the one who hears what I say as it is, and report it as it is to other people who are not present here, including people in the future, because فَرُبَّ مُبَلَّغٍ أَوْ عَمٍ سَابِعٍ." Maybe someone receiving the message comprehend it better and make sense better of it than the one who hears it now. So even that refutes that. So this is the fallacy. Secondly, what's meaning the Salaf, the idea, the point of view of the Salaf? Because we have absolute evidence that they disagreed in many issues. Some of them very substantial, like for example, initial disagreement between Abu Bakr and Umar about fighting the Murtadeen. Certain type of Murtadeen, not all Murtadeen. And it came to a dispute until even Abu Bakr held his head, shook him, said, "Are you tyrant in Jahiliyyah and a coward in Islam? I am not going to let those who do not pay the zakah get away. I am going to fight them until they pay. It's not tolerable." And Umar then caved in because of the authority and the character of Abu Bakr. That's all. But they had agreed in such a substantial point. And there is many other disagreement. So what does this mean, the point of view of and the teaching of the Salaf? They have various disagreements, even in such an important point. Fighting someone and killing someone is a fundamental issue. Bloodshed is a serious issue in Islam, and in any religion, and in any society. So what do you mean with what the Salaf has adopted? The only something which makes sense is that what they agreed, all of them, as Ijma. Let's assume Ijma. If you check, you will not find Ijma almost in nothing except with Qatey from Islam, which nobody disagreed from Islam. Any Ijma of the Sahaba, if you check the Ijma of the Sahaba, genuine one, which is well established, and also narrated by Tawatur, because you have to be sure that it's well established, and if it's really Ijma, then many people must have reported it. It's not Ijma. It is few people making a fatwa maybe in Kufa, and the people in Yemen are not aware about that, so it's going to be called Ijma. The result is that only the Qatey of Islam, which there is no disagreement, actually only those who prefer to get out of Kufr and depart Islam will disagree. So it doesn't give us any advice or direction where to go in issues of differences in fiqh and secondary issues of akhbar, what they call aqidah, which is again a false name. So in reality, if we scrutinize, because the one using the word Salaf most commonly, the Wahhabi, or they call themselves Salafi, they don't like the word Wahhabi. But really, there are other Salafi who are not Wahhabi, so they should be called Wahhabi. And Ibn Taymiyyah, who is definitely not Wahhabi and more open-minded and wider than Abdul Wahab. Abdul Wahab is not a good student of him, separated by generation, but he grew in the school of Ibn Taymiyyah and became even more extreme. He uses Salaf as an argument with those called theologian and who discussing philosophical issues, as a tool of intellectual terror. And essentially what he means, what he invokes, is points of view of Ahmad bin Hanbal. So all the Salaf collapsed into one man, Ahmad bin Hanbal. That's the reality. So this is all deceptive. These names are deceptive because they sound very nice. The predecessors, all people think the previous, people have a tendency to nostalgia. The past was good. If you ask most people in England how it was the time of your fathers, was much better. We are now suffering. Prices are high. At the time, the benefit, the weekly benefit was have been like I was here in the 70s. Some relatives, and they have neighbors, English neighbors, living on benefits. The benefits were, I think, £5 per week. And they were living lavishly more than today with a benefit of 100 or 120 per week. So it was, we lived for £5 and so on. People are nostalgic. So they always imagine that the past, because the present is having its problems and its suffering, the past had also, but it's forgotten now. And only the nice thing remaining, the nice memories. Nostalgia. So it appeals to that. It appeals to that. But there's nowhere in Quran or Sunnah any praise for the previous one. Most likely, there's usually a dispraise or disapproval of the previous one, like the Mushrikeen saying, we are following the ways of our father and grandfathers. And the Quran says, even if the revelation coming to Muhammad from Allah is more guided and more rational than your grandfathers and fathers, even if it brings you better things than what you have from there, and they still insist, stuck to that. So even you could say, going back to the Salaf and sticking to them is actually not the spirit of the Quran and Sunnah.
Yeah, but what about the hadith which talks about the best of me are the ones after me and the ones...
That's what I said. That's what I said. Best generation, the whole generation. But in the generation of Prophet ﷺ was also a group of the worst tyrants in Islam, in human history. Abu Jahl and so on, the Pharaoh of this Ummah and so on. His uncle Abu Lahab, big criminals in his generation. Meaning the whole generation as a total. And what makes them best? As I stated earlier, what makes the Sahaba especially, that's not the one meant obviously. He doesn't mean the kuffar of Quraysh. Definitely doesn't mean the kuffar of Persia and the Roman Empire. Definitely not. They're not the best of human beings. But the best of generation time past who follow the prophets. That has to be restricted. But let's assume the best of all humanity. Fine. What makes them the best? Because they have the thousands of companions who accelerated to Islam and they were willing to sacrifice wealth and life for Islam, and they were sincere. And the Quran tests all these aspects when he's comparing the Quran. He doesn't mention that they are more intelligent and more sophisticated, have better industry. That's not what makes them better. What makes them better is these features, and these features are not related to matter of understanding the Quran and Sunnah or claiming that what they have stated in certain situation is the correct is the correct statement. No, not necessary. They could make even mistakes in ijtihad. In even various places in the Quran, there's a rebucation. Even the Badri, we regard the cream of the cream, Sabiqi al-Awwalin, the first to accelerate to Islam, up to the day of Badr are called the Sabiqi al-Awwalin, which are promised paradise unconditionally. Yeah, the cream of those are the people of Badr. Even the people of Badr have been rebuked because they gave the wrong advice about the issue of taking ransom for the detainees, in violation of the injunction that ransom should not only be taken after the enemy has been crushed down. And they gave the advice because they wanted the booty, they wanted the money coming from the ransom. And the Quran rebuked them in Surah Al-Anfal. لولا كتاب من الله سبق لمسكم فيما أخذتم عذاب عظيم. They said the Badri addressed that. And he said, you wanted dunya. You did not give the sincere advice because you wanted dunya. This is the Badri. So they could have, even in this matter, some failing. So it's very important to recognize and putting a Sahaba in this light to everyone makes it feasible for Iran to strive, I can compete or come close to them at least. But if you have them like angels who have come down, and you may ask yourself, do they really, where are they going to the toilet? Were they defecating and urinating? Yes, they were. Maybe the defecation was smelling like musk. No, it was smell bad. Like ours. So this way they come closer to us, and we can really strive to come similar to them in piety, meaning in sincerity and willingness to sacrifice wealth and life for Islam. That's what makes this thing. So it has nothing to do with the intellectual issues and discussing the explanation of ayah of Quran and Sunnah. No.
So basically, you just to recap. So you're effectively saying that there isn't the things that they agreed on were already Qatey. They disagreed on loads of issues of fiqh. In terms of comprehension, they aren't necessarily the oldest would have the strongest comprehension.
I give you 2 examples for the comprehension. Two examples for the faulty comprehension in certain situation which should not be. There was something in the tribe of Ash'ari. The Ash'ari tribe is the one joined the Prophet when he was in Khaybar. They embraced Islam. They joined Ja'far coming from Abyssinian. That's in the beginning of the 6th year, I think. Beginning of the 6th year, yeah. End of the 6th year, beginning of the 7th year, when the Prophet finished Hudaybiyah, neutralized Quraysh. Then he got Wahi, marched toward Khaybar. So he went immediately for Arab Medina. He continued to Khaybar. Fine. He was communicating with the Najashi to send Ja'far and his companion, who were staying there about 15 years as an Islamic reserve, and also carrying da'wah there, and carrying da'wah to India and China. Many people do not know that. And on the way, they joined with some of the tribe of Ash'ariyin. Not the Ash'ari, the ideology. That's someone who from the tribe established that Ash'ari ideology or theology. No, it's the Ash'ari, the tribe. They joined together and they came to Khaybar. And the Prophet was so elated to see Ja'far that he asked the Muslim to give them some of the booty, etc. All these stories are known. One of the personalities, something in their tribe happened which you should have prevented from happening or commanded good and evil or something. I don't remember what has happened. Maybe the narration did not mention. And the Prophet asked him, why didn't you do taghyir? Why didn't you change the munkar? And the man answered, because Allah said, يا أيها الذين آمنوا عليكم أنفسكم ولا يضركم من ضل إذا اهتديتم. All you who believe, concentrate on yourself. You will not be, we mentioned that in tafsir, by the way. It will not harm you, those who go astray, if you are guided. And the Prophet was angry. He said, where did you go lost? How can you be lost in understanding the ayah? And he said, only want Arab man, and a believer, and the one who just arrived after Khaybar, so he participated in many battles after that, possibly in the conquest of Mecca, etc. This is for the kuffar, because the word dal usually means getting out of the way into kufr. Nobody, unless you have other evidence that means making a mistake. So this is for the kuffar. It means the kuffar going astray will not harm you. Just focus on your iman and establish your iman. That's the meaning of the ayah. So he did not understand it this way. Another, there was some Munafiqeen who left Medina, broke their immigration, and joined the hostile kuffar. And they're passing in under a covenant with security with someone who has a covenant with the Medina, and the Sahaba were disputing about what to do with them, kill them, not kill them, because they joined the Harbi Kafir. And the Prophet was silent. And the Quran rebuked them. فَمَا لَكُمْ فِي الْمُنَافِقِينَ فِئَتَيْنِ اللَّهُ أَرْكَسَهُمْ. Why disputing about the Munafiqeen? They joined a nationality or a citizenship, which is Harbi, then they are Harbi. Now they are passing there with a covenant of security, then they have the covenant of security. Just apply to them the same law of the citizenship they belong to. What's the problem with you? مَا لَكُمْ فِي الْمُنَافِقِينَ فِئَتَيْنِ. Why are you disputing about the Munafiqeen? It should be obvious. So there's 2 events and many other events like that happening at the time of the Prophet. So it's not matter of commitment. So this is a fallacy, but it is present in such a way, the companion. There seems to be angels coming from heaven, from another world. They were not living in the air. Maybe they're not even walking. Maybe they were flying in the air and things like that. And this way you have an imaginary picture of something which is not real, with the purpose, intent to pass my own statement and my own ijtihad or my own misconceptions as the one coming from the Salaf. In reality, it is not coming from the Salaf, and even if it's coming from the Salaf, it must have been disagreement about that.
Sheikh, but here's another thing. I mean, there's one thing about fiqh. What they tend to corner the market on is around the issue of aqidah. So what they're obviously they're aqidah, bid'ah, shirk, and obviously
Okay.
offshoots of that grave worship. But the thing is this: so by building, so obviously for us, belief is a fundamental component. You know, to be a Muslim, one of the fundamental arkan, having the right belief. So they just obviously
Actually, the rukn is, again, there's a fallacy which developed through history, and the people swallowed it down. The Quran never do, the Sunnah never talk about aqidah. Talk about iman. Iman is not just aqidah, a set of reports which you believe they are true. No, that's not iman. This is tasdeeq, or this is yaqeen. And this has nothing to do with the iman itself. It's the base of the iman. You have to do tasdeeq on things which have come from Allah or dictated by necessity of reason. But that's not. You have to accept it and make your life according to it. Then you are mu'min. Before that, you are just musaddiq. Example, read the Quran when it talks about the people of Fir'aun. فجحدوا بها, they rejected what Musa had brought. واستيقنتها أنفسهم, there inside their soul they have yaqeen, they have absolute conviction that this is the truth, but they rejected, say, what is going to follow Musa? Or we go follow a couple of slaves, and their nation is slaves under us, which we can slaughter and kill as well, and take the woman, whatever, for servants and whatever, and then two of those come and claim to be messenger of God, and we are supposed to follow them? No, that's what they said. Although there's istiqan. So separate that. So even though we use the word aqidah is wrong. Let's say it's a convention. Scholarly convention. Okay. Aqidah is that what the heart has been bound. Aqidah from uqda, from knot. The heart is not enough. The mean is convicted about that. That's not enough. It has to be more to become iman. But let's go to that. What the heart should be noted about? Is that what Allah ordered to know with certitude? And the Quran says clear. فَعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ. Know with certitude that's only one deity. Know with certitude that Allah knows everything and is comprehensive in knowledge. Is capable of doing everything and is comprehensive in knowledge. Know with certitude this and this and this. The Quran did not leave it open. And another place he specified what should be believed on. For example, وَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِاللَّهِ وَمَلَائِكَتِهِ وَكُتُبِهِ وَرُسُلِهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ فَقَدْ ضَلَّ ضَلَالًا. Whoever deny Allah, his books, his messenger, his angels, and the day of judgment, اليوم الآخر, the last day, he has gone astray far away. So these are the main portion of iman. But nobody disagreed with Muslims there. So they got stuck or got involved somehow in secondary issues of related to some khabariyat. Like, for example, what's really Allah created the heavens in 6 days, and after that he mounted the throne. What does it mean, mounted? Some people said it can't be the physical reality because Allah is outside space. He cannot be located in one place. That's impossible. Because if he can be in a place, he must be in every place. Otherwise, he will not cease existing. And then they indulge in these things. This is maybe a philosophical discussion. Should not be a matter of aqidah. Yeah, maybe scholars can discuss that in academia, but you should not even ask Muslims, common Muslim, to have an opinion of this. Just take it as it appears, and if you have a mental image, whatever mental image come in your mind, like someone sitting on a chair, that is just your limited imagination as a human being, and you are forgiven. Allah phrased this way so that you can have this imagination in your mind, but no, Allah is different. But that's enough for common people.
How do you derive at that conclusion? So,
for example,
how do you derive that? Because they build a narrative in terms of this is what you must know. Muslims must know this. They place Aqidah and all this kind of stuff.
Well, that's inventing. That's not what the Quran made an injunction.
When did they get to that point?
If it is, let me give you an example. If it is reported in the Quran and you come casually to it, for example, that the wife of Al-Aziz of Egypt tried to seduce Yusuf. This is a fact. The Quran says it's a fact. She tried to seduce Yusuf and he almost fell, but he recovered and ran away. Fine? If you say, no, that's not true, you are a kafir because you have declared the Quran to be false. But is that part of the Aqidah? Should they stand in the door of the mosque and ask you, do you know what the wife of Aziz did to Yusuf? No, I don't know. Then your Aqidah is faulty. No, you're not obliged to know that. But if you come casually, fine. You don't put that in the Aqidah books. Even if check their Aqidah books, it doesn't mention this. Or they should be in that according to their definition, part of Aqidah. They got stuck in problems which their ancient scholars, especially Ahmad ibn Hanbal and cohort, were not qualified to study because they're people of hadith and narration. But they gave certain answers which are most likely false, And they wanted to make that a deen and declare you are mubtadi', you are deviant, you are this or this. That's it. That's what they wanted. That's what has happened historically. That's what happened historically. So that's what they can. Now, if it comes to shirk, now the Wahhabi is having the tool of shirk. And the main thing which they have, the difference themselves from Muslims, starting actually, the problem started with Taymiyyah, but not that extreme and sharp. Not like, it was like a knife, but it was not sharp yet. Not sharpened enough to be deadly. But Ibn Abdul Wahab sharpened it, went to the extreme. He followed the consequence to its end. So he's consistent with himself more than Ibn Taymiyyah. Ibn Taymiyyah is wavering and contradicting. The conclusion is that ibadah, ما خلقت الجن والإنس ليعبدون. What is ibadah? What is a certain list of acts. Like for example, the Wahhab will tell you following that. Greeting the banner. Which you would know when the banner is lifted or the national anthem is sound, for example, in England, people stand, for example, there's a certain procedure, and they sing with it. Or if you see the banner, especially if you are a member of the military, then you're supposed to give a strike, put like this, and give a certain greeting. They say the following: standing in front of the banner in a specific way, showing respect and so on, is an act of ibadah, and you are worshipping the banner, and you are a mushrik and a kafir. So the act of, what they call act of worship, or this ritual, they declare to be ibadah, and if it is directed to someone else beside Allah, it is shirk akbar, and you are out of the whole Islam, you are a kafir. So it's clearly a faulty definition of ibadah. Because when they get to sujood, they got stuck in the problem of sujood. That the people, the family of Yaqub, where there's a prophet under them, who definitely is not a mushrik, made sujood to Yusuf when they entered Egypt. Say, oh, this is sujood of greeting. How come that sujood is one-time greeting and so on? What makes it greeting or not greeting? And they got stuck. The definition of ibadah is fundamentally faulty. And based on that, they invented what they call shirk al-qubur. These people are worshipping graves. All 85% of Pakistani are Brelwi, and the Brelwi worship grave, they are kafir, all of them. They're mushrik. Mushrik kafir, out of order of Islam. Based on the faulty definition. So even that, they missed. And their definition results really in kufr. But we don't declare them kafir because the fundamental principle is that if you have a certain point of view which necessitates kufr, doesn't mean that you are a kafir, because maybe you're not aware that it necessitates kufr. You did not do the necessary logical steps. But I am at liberty to tell you, your point of view results necessarily in kufr. Because if you define worship like these acts, meaning if you direct that act to the banner, for example, you made the banner a deity beside Allah. That's it. It became mushrik. Mushrik meaning you adopt a god beside Allah. La ilaha illallah. So, a deity is something which is worshipped. That's its definition. That meaning Allah was not worshipped in eternity before any creation, so he was not a deity in that. Which is the blatant kufr. But they never think this way. But if you show someone of them this way, they will stop and start wavering and knowing what they say. I hate to tell the people that your point of view is ending in kufr, but sometimes you are forced to say that. So even in that level, they are already blatantly wrong to the level of kufr. We're not saying they are kafir because they are simply too shallow and too ignorant to be declared kafir. They are not qualified to do these conclusions.
Sorry, can you explain a bit more? So, for them, an ilah is something that is worshipped, and in the absence of it being worshipped, it ceases to be an ilah. It ceases to be ilah, because the definition al-ilah. They haven't expressed it as such.
No, they have expressed that. Al-ilah huwa al-ma'bud. That's Muhammad Wahab said. And he said, and he lies almost, I would say he's lying deliberately, because Ibn Taymiyyah doesn't say that. And all scholars and even linguistic people agree on that. That's what he says. That's in the book of Tawheed, by the way. It's not an interested part, it comes later. With a quote and the reference. And the books are everywhere. They cannot even hold it back and erase it from the books. So al-ilah huwa al-ma'bud. That's its definition. Which flies, it's essentially giving a slap to the Quran, because the Quran defines exactly what ilah is. In Surah Al-Mu'minun, in the ayah of Tamanu. There are two types of ilah. And the ayah says, ما اتخذ الله من ولد وما كان معه من إله إذا لذهب كل إله بما خلق ولا على بعضهم على بعض. It says Allah has no son. That's a report. There are other reasons to prove that Allah is impossible to have a son, but it's enough to say that Allah is reporting, you claim I have daughters and children, offspring, I have no offspring. ما اتخذ الله من ولد. Walad is actually is more precise, an offspring. It can be female or male. Allah has no offspring. And he has no reason to lie about his own offspring if he had. And there's another deity with him. Otherwise, the other deity will take his own creation and depart away. That's the definition of ilah. The one who can create and take his own creation and get away. Or try to dominate the other one. The one create by own internal capability and can dominate the others. Or shield them. That's the ilah. Or an offspring of such an ilah. Or offspring of offspring of offspring of such an ilah. But like in programming, you are a programmer, recursive definition. It goes ultimately that the ilah is the entity which can create by its own power, has his own creation, has in the dominion of creation, and can shield it and take away from anybody else or dominate someone else. That's the ilah. Worshipped, not worshipped, green, yellow, tail, no tail, is all irrelevant. That's the characteristic. In Surah Al-Mu'minun. If you say Al-Ilah is al-Ma'bud, you have taken that and put it in the bin. I'm using very, very, very harsh language to shock the listener to think about that seriously.
Would that mean, I mean, for that to be an exclusive definition, wouldn't he have had to say illa, as in some way to say that this is his exclusive definition?
Yeah, la ilaha illallah. There's no deity except one, which is have in Arabic the name Allah, and also in Aramaic the name Allah.
Sorry, what I mean is that by saying that an ilah is something that is worshipped, is that the exclusive definition? The only thing that he considered to be a construct to different?
Yeah, that's it, and that's the reason. Even he says
that's the only thing he said.
He says, for example, about the dome or the on top of the grave of al-Badawi in Egypt. He's taking the Badawi as an example. It was very famous, and people go there and have celebration, etc. He says this is an idol. Fine. Say, if you ask al-Badawi for help on or cure, etc., and so on, then you made him Allah, not Ilah, Allah. You identified him with Allah. That's his exact wording. It's the book of Tawheed, in the Arabic one. This man is gone in such a way that is bogs imagination, and is unbelievable that people not were that time almost 100% illiterate, very few scholars. And he was able to cooperate with one guy in power who is sneaky enough and mischievous enough to recognize this is an opportunity to have someone who is so obsessed and willing to kill people and fight for that and can extend my power. That's Muhammad bin Saud. Muhammad bin Saud, I usually say in Arabic, a very nasty language, here Muhammad bin Wahab is so obsessed that he sank to the level of donkey, and he decided to ride that donkey. There's no doubt that the man is obsessed with the idea. It took all his life and all his imagination, occupied him completely. And he got the opportunity of support of someone who regarded as an excellent opportunity. Let me give you a following story. When he arrived in Dir'iyah, after he was expelled from Uyayna, Ibn Mu'ammar. Ibn Mu'ammar also worked with him initially, but Ibn Mu'ammar received a threat from the Uthmani Wali in eastern region, to whom this Uyayna and Najd was belonging. But it's a loose belonging. It's a Bedouin area, the central power in Istanbul, and even the eastern region in Dammam or Dhahran, now called Dammam and Dhahran, actually Qatey and Hufuf. They were not bothered very much, but it still belongs to them. So it's a part of the Khilafah Uthmaniyya. The Wahhabi usually deny that. So no, we are outside the Khilafah. We did not rebel against the Khilafah, but we come to that later. So he, the ruler of the eastern region from Hufuf, wrote a threatening letter to Ibn Mu'ammar for one reason, because Ibn Abdul Wahab stoned an adulteress. She admitted and stoned her. Assume that's correct. No problem with that. But stoning and executing hudud is a matter of the government. So it looks for the governor of Ahsa that Ibn Abdul Wahab and Ibn Mu'ammar, they have usurped power and they make a decision which should be made by the government, at least by the Wali or by Istanbul. Not here. They're running out of authority. Because you cannot, like, for example, if you go enlist and detain someone, putting in prison, then you declare yourself to the authority. You have no right to do that. Only the police, which are authorized properly and established properly by the authority, by the Home Office, and the Home Office minister or secretary is elected by the parliament, etc. In a well-known procedure, part of the state. You are not at liberty to do that. You cannot do it. You're not allowed. The same there. Same in the Islamic entity or semi-Islamic entity. So that's the reason of threat, not a matter of Aqeedah and so on. He was not bothered. The one in Wahab was not even caring about that. He's caring about this act. So Ibn Abdul Wahab went to Dar'iyah. In the meeting with Muhammad bin Saud, who took power a few years before by killing his own cousins and so on, taking power, like the habit in the tribal areas there, killing each other, taking power, and then writing to the local wali, declaring that I have took power and so on, sanction me and appoint me or something like technicality. Went to meet him. And the following conversation, as narrated by a book, which is now printed and we have in our site, so people can download it. Look at the sneaky question. He noticed that this man is obsessed completely. And he heard his stories in Ayyan. Ayyan is not far away from Dar'iyah, just maybe, I don't remember, maybe 50 kilometers something. I was living near Dar'iyah myself when I was there. I told him, I hear that you came here and you want to have protection like Abd Muammar and so on, someone who can protect you and help in the da'wah. And you want to stay here. Say yes. I want to establish Tawheed and fight shirk and bid'ah and so on. Say, okay, that's fine, but there is a problem, Sheikh. You are a rajul nasik, you are a pious man, a devotee, and we are sinner because we are eating haram. What does he mean? And he explains, I have some taxes, and he knows they are legitimate taxes from the people of plantations, and because the area is just essentially palm trees. That the main income of the people. They have dates and palm tree and some animals and so on, and they have a tax there, not a zakat, some extra, just for my treasury. And we eating haram. How can we stay in a country which is the ruler is eating haram? That's exactly what he said. And even they, and what makes the story with this formulation more trustworthy is is written down in the dialect of Ahl Najd. We expect from an ignorant man like Muhammad bin Saud to be talking in dialect. He will not be talking in High Arabic, like some reports try to translate this statement in High Arabic. And they will say, no problem, continue eating haram as long as you support me to defeating shirk. Continue eating haram. So Muhammad bin Saud said, what a great gift from heaven. This man is busy demolishing graves and I'm busy extending my power. And that's what had happened from that day. Recently, by the way, although this is not an evidence, their ambassador here in London, you may have heard the statement he said. He said, who said we have anything to do with religion? We are a tribe which won the wars, defeated the others, and controlled things. Religion is just was a tool. He admitted that statement. Yeah, we have nothing to do with Islam or Wahhabism or any religion. We are a tribe which won the war. And this was translated and broadcast in the English media. So don't regard us as the guardian of Islam or anything. This is all, meaning that's always fake. It was just to get. We actually won the war, and to establish power and convince the population to obey and not rebel. Religion was a very good tool. That's it.
Sorry, this Muhammad ibn Saud, why would he make this quote if it's going to undermine him subsequently? So why
one of the students of Muhammad Abdul Wahab is reporting that.
Yeah, but what in terms of him, what was his Machiavelli reason to even express that?
To solicit from the man something.
Okay, just to gauge him.
Say you cannot. You are a devotee. You are a nasik. You are a man of the akhirah, not of dunya. But we are people of dunya and we are sinner. We are eating haram. How can we stay here? Meaning, tell me something. Give me some solution. And the solution came.
Does this tie into the mentality whereby, take currently, for example, Al-Saud, they can round up people, put people in prison, every riba,
Don't worry about that.
As long as the Aqidah
That's we come to that later. But I mean, that's the founding of the state. When some people say, what happened? Some people, there's a fabricated book written, I think, by some Shia scholars in Iraq, claiming that Ibn Abdul Wahab himself is a British agent, and there was a British spy called Jefferson or something like that, and he has confessions. The moment you open the book and read a few pages, it smells Shia fabrication. There's no doubt about that. I can't even write details about that if necessary, but they know that, and nobody is respecting that book. Everyone is a fabrication. That's nonsense. The reality is this man have been taken over this idea to the level of absolute obsession. He himself in his writing say, brothers, before several years, I did not know any about Tawheed. I was mushrik. All my teachers are mushrik and kafir until I woke up to the reality and recognized the real Tawheed. He business, about himself. The man is so overtaken with the idea. He's not a British agent or anything. The British agent may be Muhammad bin Saud, but not this man. He's completely obsessed. Answering your question, is he a hero or whatever it is? He's mentally so obsessed that you could classify as mentally deranged, completely gone. And this man recognized Muhammad. This is a man who is out for power and government. Because this is an excellent tool for control. But I have first to check that he will not interfere with my income and money and illegitimate taxation, which he knows is illegitimate. It's known to everyone this type of taxation is illegitimate. And then he got from him this fatwa. And then the alliance was made. Based on approving that will continue. Yes, you support Tawheed, meaning demolishing graves. And secondly, another condition, you don't leave here without my permission. By the way, the condition does not entail that Muhammad bin Saud cannot kick him out. The formation doesn't tell that. You don't leave without my permission. But there's no way to say, and I give you as a covenant that I don't kick you out. No, it's not even stated like that. But the man is so obsessed that just the promise, I support your da'wah, khalas, is enough for him. He doesn't see anything else. Just to understand the character of the man. He's not a British agent. He's just a mentally deranged person. Going to extreme until exactly like now Daesh. Because they have certain ideology in their mind. They can't be used by anyone. They are blind. Extremism blinds you. Does not let you see the way.
So basically, this whole insistence on shirk you've rebutted because of the fundamental definition of shirk.
Yeah. The Tawheed is there in full in Arabic. The part that's translated is actually only the introduction part, which because the reason for this calamity to happen is that his usul and the way he wrote, but you cannot blame him very much because at his time, Islamic scholarship was at the bottom. Islamic scholarship was increasing and advancing until, let's say, the 5th Islamic century, roughly, with more elaboration and development. Then slowly it started stagnating and stayed maybe 3-4 centuries in the same level, up to Ibn Taymiyyah and after Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani and so on. Just encyclopedic way of collecting things, but nothing really creative. Even few creations of Ibn Taymiyyah are not that genuinely creative. And then after that started declining, genuinely declining, until the bottom of the time of Muhammad Wahab. So you cannot blame him that he is he is at the end of a declining period after a stagnation and after the development of scholarship, which was starting to become deviant after the time of Sahaba anyway. So you cannot blame him, but that's the reality. His usul, the way he looks at Quran and Sunnah, the way he reads at Quran and Sunnah, he reads it with half-blind eyes. So that's the reason the Book of Tawheed, we have these 3 first chapters, try to clarify the fundamental principle, going to the bottom of the absolute necessities of reason and perception, and also the necessities of Quran. Only the utmost fundamental and pressing necessities are depicted there. Then we discuss later than the evidences of prophethood and so on, and then rebut the issues of shirk and shirk al-Arab and worshipping grave and so on.
So the other thing that they kind of hang their appeal on is the issue of bid'ah and mubtadi, and this entire insistence of having purity of deen. So there's creed, aqidah, and then there's the acts themselves. Almost
we suppose that because the aqidah, which is every Muslim will agree and which they're fundamentally established by Quran and before that by the necessity of reason, is believing in Allah, His Messenger, Day of Judgment, etc. Even the details of their judgment, their judgment include hell and fire and etc. and accounting. That's part of the Yawm al-Akhir. That's essential. That's it. But all the details of there are many hadith about details of how accounting will be in Yawm al-Qiyamah. You're not required to believe in them. If you pass on them, okay, then you will believe them automatically because they have good isnad. They seem to be authentic. That's it. That's not part of Aqidah. What they mean with Aqidah is these questions, these secondary questions about is the Quran created, not created? What is mounting the throne? That's what they declare Aqidah and put it as a part of Tawheed and play a game with that with the people and havoc with their mind. You have
when did this become an issue? When did this become an issue? And how do they how would you rebuttal that their articulation that it is an issue and it's because it's related to creed?
Because clearly it was not the issue of the time that they claimed the Salaf of Sahaba. They never discussed that. Because they understood that everyone understood his own way as according to his imagination. And they understood the general principle that Allah is different than whatever we imagine, but whatever we imagine is okay, according to our limited human perception. Full stop, stay there. That's it. They didn't have any need to discuss and go in this issue. Barely. There may be one and two issues related to what is the kursi and what's the arsh, one or two narrations, and that's all what is there. That's it. And nothing else about that. So there were disputes about who is Muslim and a Kafir and what gets you out of the fold of Islam in the time of Sahaba by the Khawarij and so on. That was dispute. That's the beginning. But not these what they call of Aqidah. What they usually call of Aqidah. Especially their own Aqidah, which they're defining Shirk and Tawheed and the divinity in a definition which contradicts Quran. So that's it. That's part of the problem.
So, for example, take the issue.
But since you say this is Aqidah, and Aqidah is more important than Sharia, you have to have the correct creed, and the people confuse creed with Iman. All this mixed up becomes then a major issue, which is not major. It's not even secondary.
Okay, so the issue that they fixate on, like for example, the hand, the kursi. There's no requirement at all to extrapolate that or to have an adoption on that.
Absolutely no requirements. There's clearly no requirement.
When they use the word mubtadi, is it usually they use it on the issue of creed and they also use it on related to actions? So, for example, milad, birthday of the Prophet, various things of that nature.
Based again on a fundamentally false usul that whatever the Sahaba did not do, we should not do, which is completely false. Even whatever the Prophet did not do, we should not do, because we're not doing is nothing. Nothing cannot be evidence for anything. Nothingness is a fundamental logical flow.
So I can understand, for example, actions.
For example, when the Prophet does certain action and leave it, the only thing you can conclude that by necessity of reason and by the all overwhelming narration is that what he has left cannot have been obligatory. That's all of it. It may be still desirable. He left it deliberately, leave it to show that it's not obligatory. It could be desirable. It could be plain mubah. It could be undesirable. It could be haram. All these four. You have to have extra evidence for that. That's if he has done an act and left it. If he has done no act at all, like for example, he never planned or tried to build a rocket to go to the moon, because it was not given at his time. Can you conclude that building a rocket and going to the moon is bid'ah? Sunnah? Cannot conclude anything.
Isn't bid'ah?
You see the fallacy when you apply it to such odd cases. In normal cases, they can say he did not celebrate his birthday. The only thing you can say for that, it's not obligatory. That's all.
But they frame certain things as being.
But as a matter of fact, he praised the Monday, as I say, this is about Monday, fasting Monday, because this is my birthday. That's the day I am born. So hinting that the day he's born is a nice day worthy of celebrating by fasting or whatever celebration. Hinting, but he did not do. And also in the Arab tradition, there was no celebrating of birthdays, while other nations celebrate birthdays. So it's simply you cannot conclude from that. You have to have other reasons. Someone could say, based on that, he praised Monday, fasting on Monday, because he said Monday is the day I am born on. Meaning Monday is a good day. We're celebrating with Siyam, but his birthday is also worth celebrating because he made that a good feature of Monday. So you may conclude from that that it's maybe desirable to celebrate his birthday, even if he doesn't. Maybe he did not celebrate it so that it doesn't become an injunction and burden to his ummah. Then they go through the excess, exactly like this case with the discussion going around Taraweeh between some Sunni and Shia, etc., or some Shia and Sunni. As a matter of fact, he started Taraweeh and started even the masjid, and then more people came. Then he decided it's becoming dangerous now, so he stayed home. And they came, waited, and started making sounds that we are here. He ignored them. At the end, and the last day, they throw even stone against his door. The Prophet was very angry. And he said, you almost have caused Allah to make Taraweeh obligatory on you. I abstained from doing it in the masjid, so it doesn't become obligatory. And the best prayer beside after Faridah is the one who you pray at home. You see the point? And then people said after that, because of that, some people, Shia said, it's a bid'ah of Umar. No, it's not bid'ah. Because after the Prophet passed away, there is no danger of it to become obligatory or any wahi coming. Khalas, wahi is gone, khalas. Now we can do the nice thing and bring the people and have an imam who is good with a good voice and reading, and even having an imam for men and imam for women, because the masjid was very big and they couldn't hear the imam, but we didn't have microphones at that time or megaphones. So it's from Umar, it's not bid'ah. It's a very good act. It's a very good act. Just to give you an example, but the problem is the usul. Let's go to the fundamental usul. That he did not do something or even left something after doing. In the case of Taraweeh, is very clearly making Taraweeh in Jama'ah in the masjid, is because he was concerned that it may become obligatory on them. An injunction may come from heaven making it obligatory. And he did not want too many obligations in Ummah. He wanted to make it easy in his Ummah as much as possible. Like, for example, the habit of Hassan was to do, for every salah, to do wudu. In the day of conquest of Mecca, he made wudu in the morning, in one morning, because he stayed several days before going to Hunayn, to the battle. And then, in Dhuhr, he did not make a wudu and prayed without. In Asr. And then Umar asked the Messenger of Allah, he did something I have never seen it. You do it before. You did not make wudu for every salah as usual. The Messenger said, I did it deliberately, Umar. Why did he deliberately? To show it's not obligatory. Because some people can say, he was always making wudu for every salah, so wudu is obligatory for every salah. No. There will be some dumb people like that. To break that, he did it one day, show it, it's not obligatory. But he prefers to do wudu for more purity, for more beautification, for cooling, whatever reasons. But it's not obligatory. You see, the fundamental issue, the usuli, they have faulty usul. They read one hadith, conclude something based on face value. In another hadith, they conclude something. In a third hadith, they conclude something. And they don't put them together. And they don't go to a fundamental principle and usul, which is enshrined by necessity of reason and Quran and Sunnah. Like the same, for example, not only Wahhabi, but many others, in the issue of basic ruling of permissibility.
Sorry, could you elaborate on that?
The basic ruling of permissibility, that the basic ruling of action, thoughts, and everything is permissibility. That's
so, for example, some scholars, I don't know the names, would argue that if you repeated a certain act and you incorporate it into your worship and you consider it to be recommended or something of that nature, that makes it into a bid'ah. If
you make it recommended without any evidence, without evidence whatsoever, then it's bid'ah. But it may be not. Maybe you have certain ijtihad. Like, for example, you can very well celebrate the Mawlid of the Nabi. Say, yes, it's not an Arabic tradition. He did not celebrate it for whatever reason, so it's definitely not obligatory. But he praises Monday, being say, that's the day I am born in, meaning a day I'm born in is a blessed day. If the Monday is blessed in the week, then the day he is born, or supposed to be born, because the day that people celebrate now is almost certainly the wrong day. I have some work on that, but that's not our issue today. It's almost certainly the wrong day. But still, they assume it is being the day, and they celebrate it as an occasion. I say, the Prophet praised that and regard it as a blessed day. You can celebrate.
So as long as it's framed in the format that...
because you have an argument. The other one is purely making with absolutely no evidence. Like, for example, taking that Prophet usually make wudu for every salah, which he showed that is not obligatory. Say it is even better and more desirable and closer to Allah to make ghusl for every salah. That's bid'ah, because there's absolutely no reason for that. No even one hint. You see my point? That's it. That's bid'ah. But the other one is not bid'ah, because the possible point of view and the argument is actually structured and well established. It's a good argument. That the Sahaba did not do it, it's not their tradition. Or they were busy with jihad. It did not come in their mind. It came in mind with the people later.
So this fixation about bid'ah as being, well, firstly framing something as bid'ah and then making it such an overwhelming issue, which almost, overrides shedding blood.
This indicate a mentality which is going extreme in religions, which is very destructive. The Prophet prohibited that in an occasion which is shocking. You know the story. Now let me repeat the story. In his final pilgrimage, just a few months before he died, alayhi Ibn Abbas narrates that he was and Al-Fadl. Al-Fadl is the brother of Abbas, and also another, I think, Usama ibn Zayd ibn Haritha. They were mounting behind the Prophet in exchange. Sometimes Al-Fadl, sometimes Al-Abbas, so taking turn. It was my turn when I arrived in Muzdalifah, said Al-Abbas. And then when we sat down, in Muzdalifah you sit down because they depart on camel back. And in camel back, you don't have a traffic jam because camels were skilled to go up the mountain and so on. And the number was also limited at that time. Nowadays, if you depart with cars, you get stuck. You are happy to reach Muzdalifah before dawn. You will not get any opportunity to have a nap. But at the time, they went. So we settled there. And before going to sleep, I think, or after, when waking at Fajr, I think before going to sleep, as a precaution, he told Ibn As, select for me stones so and so much. Most likely for every day. He select from Muzdalifah because the stones are small and nice. So it's a sunnah to select from Muzdalifah. But you can select from anywhere, but in that place. And then I selected small stones which are like the size of chickpeas. Very small. And I put in his hand. He was amazed about it. Why Ibn Abbas shows it, we don't know, but as he shows it, this is maybe the right size for nice management and putting a big number in a bag. I think that maybe that's it. And the people around him also, in the pilgrimage, people around him continuously to learn from him, to get advice, to get instructions, to get guidance. And they felt that it's maybe the last pilgrimage, so they have to get opportunity to soak as much as possible from the knowledge coming from heaven through him, alayhi salatu wasalam. So he turned the stone and turned to the people, say, بِمِثْلِ هَذَا فَرْمُ, like with this size, do stoning. And then he make a statement which seems to be shocking, seems to be unrelated to this small size stone. وَإِيَّاكُمُ الْغُلُوُ فِي الدِّينِ, don't go extreme in devotion, in deen. Deen here means tadayyun, being devoted, being religious. Don't go extreme, because the previous nations were destroyed by going this extreme in deen. Because you may think, I am going to stone the devil. A bigger stone shows hostility and hatred more. You take a big stone. And the next time you take a bigger stone. And the next time to take even a machine gun, and then you kill the people starting around. That's what develops. That's Qulub al-Din, would lead to your destruction.
Couldn't you have a counter argument to that, in the sense that it's the fact that people incorporate other rituals is what's leading to ghulu? So, for example,
no, the argument is faulty. We have the hadith of the Prophet. Now you show, if they come with that argument, say, we have this hadith showing what ghulu. He is saying clearly, بِمِثْلِ هَذَا فَرْمُ, with this size. And avoid, and Nasadi, they say, avoid going extremism in deen, because the previous nations were destroyed. And the only occasion he said previously were destroyed is this one, and another one that they punish the poor and the lowly and leave the rich and the noble from punishment, in the equation of cutting the hand of the Khuzaiya and the Makhzumiyya. And he said, even if Fatima committed theft, I will cut her hand. And another two other occasions what would destroy. Another one is that they were asking to their messenger, going back and forth with questions and interrogations to their messenger. That destroys nations. etc. There are 4 or 5. You can't even search in any collection of hadith and so on with the word إنما أهلك من كان قبلكم, the phrase. Then you will find 4 or 5 types. That's one of them. And the example given is clear. It's not inventing a new ritual. It's exaggerating the size of the stone. And we see the reality of that. Many simple-minded people from around the world, even from Arabia itself, but in Arabia they tend to be a little bit better educated about that, especially Egyptian. They're very hot, devoted and so on. At the stoning site, some of them take their shoes and throw it at the devil. You caused me to divorce my wife. And just you need to mess with the shoe and hit someone in his head. You are lucky if you don't plug his eye out. And if it becomes a general habit of exaggerating everything, it will lead to destruction. Ultimately, it starts simple, but it grows because the mentality, the obsessed mentality, that is more pious.
So in some ways, this whole so a good parallel for this would
Another
be
example of that. One time in a battle campaign, the Prophet was fasting. Usually he doesn't fast or a trip in a camel, and then the sun just sank, just barely sank, and the horizon is burning with light. And he said to the one driving the camel, "Stop and let us go down and do us a drink." And the man said, "Still the sun." Say, "Stop, I tell you, stop." And they said, "Waylak, woe on you, stop and start doing the drink." Because the man think, I should wait a little bit, maybe 2 more minutes, that's more pious. And then it goes more and more and more and more and more until you continue until next sahur, like some people tried.
So this is fasting.
And fasting. And he told them, this is not this. You just said, I have a speciality with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My Lord feed me something spiritual for him, but for you it's off limit. And still some insisted, and he fasted with them. Do you know how much wisal he did? He did it not only one night, did it 7 days in a row until they collapsed. Don't do it. That's especially for me. But the people have this tendency, think it's more pious. That's all of Din comes.
So the example of, the example...
Actually, their definition of bid'ah and bigger, Sahaba did not do it. That's all of Din. That's going to extreme. What if I said the Sahaba did not do it? Who said they will do everything reasonable and nice until Yawm al-Qiyamah? Who said that? What they did and excelled, the Quran said clearly. They are truthful, they are spending, they are sacrificing themselves for the cause of Allah ahead of everyone. That's what made them like that. Not anything else. That's it. Read the Quran from A to Z. You have to go back to the Quran and read it. You have to do the number of the Quran. You cannot just rely on one hadith here, maybe one, the hadith may be even faulty, maybe not narrated completely. Go to the one which is completely protected the Quran from cover to cover to have these more fundamental issues clarified in your mind.
You often give an example of the man who came into the masjid and the hadith which talks about the mas of shaitan. Can you explain how this kind of relates to this? Because on this subject
this is what I call a divine drama or divine comedy, like the one of Dante, but it's not a comedy, it's a drama. You can call it comedy if you want. Anas ibn Malik narrates various channels. So most of them are weak, but if you put them together and analyze them, you come to the conclusion that the story must have been authentic of a God. So we were at the Messenger of Allah for some time, and we were talking about, and then we mentioned a man who is known for extreme piety and who was participating in jihad. It's not only. And we mentioned he did this and that. But Allah said, I don't know him. According to your prescription, I don't remember that man. I don't know. Let me comment here quickly. That the Prophet, I don't know him, meaning he does not attend the halaqah of the Prophet. He's not gaining knowledge. Make a note on that. And Allah put it as next textbook. Then while we are discussing this man and describing he looks like that, his beard is like that, the man came from far away. Go toward the masjid. Most likely the Prophet was sitting on the side of the masjid or outside, not in the front. They have a place of sitting near the people of Sufa in the back at that time. Let's assume that, or at the entrance there. far away from the end. The Messenger, this is the man we are talking about. He is coming. And he came. First looked at him, say, this one. I don't know him, but I see in his face the strike of the devil. Shocking. That's because the prophets have spirituality and receive wahi. The others do not see only the external work. And then the Prophet want to teach them why he has a strike of the devil. So when he came close, he said salam. The Messenger would say, Ashhaduk Allah, I ask you by Allah, when you came close to this group of sitting people, did you think in your mind that you are better than everyone here? Maybe excluding the Prophet, maybe the others at least. Let's assume that. Let's give the man a better benefit of the doubt. Unlikely that he thinks better than the Prophet, but and the man who is truthful say, Allahumma na'am. By Allah, yes. Now we know what the stuff of Shaitan. He's arrogant. He's looking down on his Muslim brothers. I do more. I am doing more in the battlefield. I pray more. Then he proceeded. Does he sit and ask why you are asking me what's going on? Why this strange question? No. He doesn't need. He knows everything. He has everything already. That's his behavior. Show that. Otherwise, he would have to be sitting. Imagine you get the opportunity to pass at the Messenger of Allah with people sitting and he asks you such a strange question. Wouldn't you sit and say, Messenger of Allah, why are you asking me this question? Strange question. What's happening? Is something wrong with me? No, he didn't. He continued in the masjid, to the front of the masjid, maybe behind the wall or a curtain or something. Most likely the Prophet was in the back at the people of Sufa, people who living in the masjid, doing Quran and so on. And the Messenger come to the people there. Abu Bakr and Umar were there, and Ali and so on, a few others. So it was really an important gathering. Imagine he thinks he's better than these, including Ali and others, possibly even including the Prophet. But let's say we will not go to that extreme. And he said, put the following a strange command or request. Say, who from you will go and kill this man? Man is not warrior. He didn't say anything kufri or something. And they know that the Prophet all his life, that must be late in time, because Abu Bakr also reported that, but in a mutilated way. So it may be in the 9th or 10th year, very late. And also Anas must have been mature and old, sitting with these people, because he started serving the Prophet with 10 years. 10-year-old will not bother with things. Most likely he must be 15, 16, 17, quite late. So what happened? But maybe wahi, maybe something exceptional. So Abu Bakr said, I will do it. So I will go, if you can. So he went. He saw the man praying. And then he hesitated. Said, the Messenger of Allah ordered. This is all a divine comedy. Allah producing it visibly. Because at the end, we know it is a divine comedy. He would not have been killed because he is not worthy of killing. Beware, but will follow. He said, praying, say, how can I kill him while he's praying? The Prophet said, I'm prohibited from killing al-Musallin, the one who pray. Especially if they're now praying now. If al-Musallim meaning the one who prays generally, but this is the one who is praying right now. So he went back to the Messenger of Allah. I saw him praying, and you have prohibited us from killing al-Musallin. And Messenger of Allah said, you are not the one for that. You are not the one predestined for this one. Umar said, I will do it. The rough, tough Umar. He goes and then pulled the sword, heads down. We will dispatch with this man. He came and found him in sujood. This is even worse. The man is in a sujood. The lowest body position, honoring Allah Ta'ala, the exalted and supreme. Not only he's praying, and Abu Bakr hesitated. Abu Bakr is a good example. I should follow Abu Bakr. He hesitated and went back to the Messenger. I walked in sujood. You are not the man for him. And Ali said, let me go. But I said, see what he said to Ali. Go. You will kill him if you find him. If you find him. And then he goes in, the man has finished and gone. Ali came back, said he's gone. Messenger said, there are people, this way of guidance, full of themselves, arrogant, looking down on other Muslims, believing that they have all the knowledge. In reality, they read the Quran without digesting it. The famous hadith, that's the first occasion, or one of the cases. And they will deviate from Islam or from obedience and from the community. And if I meet them, say I will exterminate them. If you have killed him, which is impossible by design of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he would have the first and the last of the Khawarij. But it's not the way of the universe. That's not the way the universe have been started at the beginning as a testing universe. It couldn't be possibly have been killed. If you have killed him, but if it's impossible, it's impossible. You could not have killed him. Because the history has to take away, and you have to be tested by Khawarij, tested by Munafiqeen, tested by your own desires. You have to be tested now, tomorrow, and tomorrow. These days, in our interaction now, tomorrow. There's no escape. This is qadar, fixed at the beginning of the creation. Unescapable.
This is an interesting
price of free will. Anyway, this now we know it's a divine comedy. Allah exposing to them like an act in front of them. That man could not have been killed because he's not pulling the sword. That's number one. The Prophet ordering him killing by wahi, either knowing or Jibreel knowing or Allah, definitely Allah knowing that he will not be killed and these people will fail. And also hinting that the one who will fight Khawarij, and if he finds them, is Ali, not Abu Bakr, not Umar. And it's supported of another hadith. We mention it just to give some nice taste to our discussion today, and to give Ali ibn Abi Talib his virtue in this special regard. One time I'm starting to say, one of you will be fighting about the ta'weel, about the proper interpretation of the Quran, as I fought about its revelation. Notice the word. It's the same way I fought about its revelation. One of you will fight about its proper interpretation, not about revelation. People are not denying revelation, but they will reinterpret it wrongly. And the way he's saying, like I fought Tanzil, we know the fighting about Tanzil is infallible and is the correct way to doing it. Giving a warning, sending messengers, doing this thing. We know that. We have that structured. We have even writing in this series, which will be finished soon. So Ali will be doing it the correct way in this regard. Not necessarily in inheritance law, not necessarily in matter of selling and buying slaves, which he has some fatwas which are almost manifestly wrong. No, in this one he will be correct. So Abu Bakr, this is a great virtue, that you will be the one fighting for the meaning of the Quran in the time which is misinterpreted. So I said, is it me, my messenger of Allah? I said, no, not you. Umar said, me. I want to have this great honor. Say, no. Say, who is it then? Say, the one who is fixing my sandals. And Ali was fixing the sandals of the Prophet, stitching it. Khas bin Na'al is the one who do it. It's the same here. It's the one who, here he failed to find the man because he could not find it now. That's not the time to be found. So there's also a projection of the possible future there, which the history have brought forward as a reality. But the point here is not Ali's virtue and so on. This is important by itself, and that is its own standing. The point here is that the mentality of the man. He doesn't sit to the halq of the Prophet. He has the Quran, and he thinks he has digested it properly. You cannot digest the Quran just by reading the Quran alone. You have to refer the Sunnah in its totality, obviously. And even if you don't have a Sunnah at hand, like when Allah is addressing the Mushrikeen and the Munafiqeen about that, or he's addressing Mushrikeen and Munafiqeen, so they say about fundamental issues. About fundamental issues, the Quran is more than sufficient. With the provision, you read it and digest it. And you read it, all of it. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ. Do they ponder about the Quran? Not an ayah or two ayahs. All the Quran. Then if you go through it, all of it, interconnected it properly, analyze it consistently, then it's enlightened in your mind. It must be of divine origin. There's only one divinity. There's a day of judgment. That's the addressee to the Mushrikeen and Munafiqeen.
It's actually very interesting. Even
he is now looking down his Muslim brothers and not willing even to sit in with the Prophet to learn more things which he need as a companion who's supposed to be carrying the da'wah after the Prophet until Yawm al-Qiyamah. He's not doing. He did not.
Two observations there, Sheikh, if you don't mind. So one observation here is the fact that this person. So, for example, you previously mentioned about the Khawarij, how when it says that it doesn't go deep in their throats. You made the argument that Sadr is deep conviction, deep, strong, solid.
Sadr is in metaphorical, because the Sadr is the place of knowledge, like the database, the storage. Heart is a metaphor for the center, the CPU, the processing unit, the consciousness, the mind, also the associated feeling, and where you conclude things and conjure things. And the knowledge goes in the sadr. People think it's the physical one. No, it's the metaphorical one. And even if the Quran says it is not the eyes which become blind, it is the heart which is in the chest, meaning the metaphorical heart or the spiritual heart in the spiritual chest. So that's what the Arabic convention, and it fits with the, like, for example, if you detect, for example, or you are programming, you are a programmer or doing computer issues. If you detect something on a way to do a service or way to connect programs, and you feel as if your chest is elated. You feel like ease on the chest. It's in here, but you feel the ease here. If you get a bad news, you feel the pain. You feel the pain in your heart. Here you feel it because of vagus. But reality is here ongoing. So this is the metaphorical one. So that reflection, what the people, even some people going to extreme think that really the physical heart is there, and then obviously refuted by heart transplantation. We know that when you transplant the heart of someone who died, the one who received the heart remained the same person, the same character, and so on. Barely anything from the other one will come. We know that. But
that's actually interesting. So, for example, this is a good example.
So that's the chest, the information. So when the Prophet says, "La yujawaz taraqim," it doesn't go down through the tarqa to the chest. It doesn't become knowledge, useful knowledge, sitting in the chest. It doesn't. It is just chewing on it. That's it. It is not digested. Because if it's digested, if something goes through the throat to go down, then it's digested. And if it's digested, it becomes part of the body. In the case of food, in the case of knowledge, Quran, it goes in your chest as knowledge and understanding, not just mere bits of data. Understanding, correct understanding, correct, getting the correct and the connected meaning. And then Mr. Bassett says they read the Quran, not the ayat of Quran, the Quran, the total Quran, and they still are unable to digest because they don't do the correct digesting tools, even in fundamental things for the Khawarij. The area Khawarij which confronted Ali, their problem was the issue of hukum and ruling. Maybe we'll come to that point because some of the people currently are discussing that issue more extensively because they relate to rulers, and many of these Salafi and so on are agents, either paid agents and traitors like Madkhali, Rabi Madkhali, I know him, and I read a story about him, or many followers who think he's really a pious man and guiding them to the right way. And in reality, he's a paid man. He's an agent. I know him personally. I met him personally and discussed with him personally. So, what we were saying, yeah, about the Khawarij suffered because of the issue of ruling. It's clear that they're reading the Quran without digesting it because the issue of ruling is clear in the Quran. When they say, La hukma illa lillah. Yes, there are various ayahs in al-hukma illa, but which ruling is only for Allah? Because the Quran says there are places we reveal the Torah with guidance and light and so on, with which the prophets and the scribes and the Rabbani, the Rabbis, the Rabbani, etc., and the scholars judge, rule also. So the prophets and the scribes, and they rule. So there's a ruling of prophets and so on. The messenger of Allah is ordered to rule. If they come to you to rule between them, meaning the Jews, and they dispute, then you have the liberty. Either you rule with them or say, no, you are an independent entity, manage your affairs. Or you choose to rule. If you choose to rule, then rule with Allah has revealed injustice. There's no liberty. You don't follow their desires. You rule with that are revealed to you, not what they want you to rule about. Yours, what have you revealed to you. So there is a ruling of the messenger. So in al-hukm ila Allah must be certain ruling which is exclusive to Allah. Which one is that? That's a question. For that, if you have read all the Quran, you would have digested it, you would understood that this ruling is something else than what they objected to Ali ibn Abi Talib, agreeing to have arbitration. It's not arbitration. Although the arbitration was a political mistake, and Ali said this is the trick, but they didn't obey him. Okay, fine. But independent of that, has nothing to do with violating the fundamental principle. It's ruling only for Allah. Also, can order us to rule if someone kills a game. That we have to get two righteous men who make a ruling about what is the equivalent animal of cattle or the equivalent expiation, which we discussed in Surah Al-Ma'idah, for example.
So it's a couple of observations there.
So there are various rulings. Some of it exclusive to Allah, some of it, what is exclusive to Allah? That's what killed the initial Khawarij. They thought every ruling, including arbitration, is only for Allah. No, it's not true. Allah ordered to others to rule in this and this. So what is the ruling which is exclusive for Allah? That has to be settled. And it's in our book of Tawheed and Hakimiyya, which is almost, the translation is almost finished, I understand. Yeah, I think you are editing the final version.
Yeah, but it needs
It's sorted out after a long, deep discussion, invoking essentially a Quran necessity of reason. We don't even use a hadith for that. So if they have read the Quran and digested it, they would have reached that conclusion, or a similar conclusion, maybe not as sophisticated. This one in our book is sophisticated because I'm building on knowledge and discussion over 1400 years, for God's sake. That will make you more sophisticated, more advanced. We develop things, let us say, the 14th, 15th generation, like a car of the 15th generation, will be more sophisticated and polished than the early cars who go around stuttering. Clearly. But still, you could have got a car at least, which walks, which drives. They don't get. They got a pile of junk. And ended fighting Ali ibn Talib and causing a catastrophe for themselves, for the Ummah, and Muawiyah was able to get away. And I suspect that even Muawiyah penetrated them and instigated them and played with them at work, most likely. And there are very, very many hints indicating that he was playing the strings from behind the scene. But that's not our issue. So part of that also because they think they have, with this blubbering and reading, just shallow reading, they got all the knowledge. So they don't bother about asking companions and asking other scholar people.